level? I call this county 2, for good reason, because we use a lot of the similar techniques in this corporation at a very small level and very well policy driven. I have no problem with that. And I think because it's policy driven, if we're going to change policy, then let's do it correctly. But let's give them the opportunity. I would rather see our staff have the opportunity to act like businessmen in the community instead of being constrained continually by rules that are put on them by whatever. I've said this for 30 years, I will continue to say it. When we unleash the magic of these managers, then we're going to get the profits that the Deputy Mayor talks about, whether they're social profits, as Marty says, or they're profits in the sense of slicing nickels. But until we unleash those things, you're not going to. In the private sector, we encourage people to do performance-based stuff, and we don't do it here. So that's, you want my, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we know what we're going to do then?
Yeah, we develop a policy that's open on how to do it.
Okay.
They've got the tools to develop, they can come back. What we have here is a delivery of the idea.
Yep.
And you should talk to us about it. Now come back and how can you make those things happen? They can deliver to us, okay, you need these things in place, these are checks and balances. We would only recommend if those checks and balances were correct.
Yeah.
In other words, if we didn't hit certain guidelines in terms of our budgetary requirements and we saw degradation or atrophication of our services, we say we need something. But you have to have those measurements. Do you remember a mayor at one point talking about measurements, Mr. Mayor? A couple of terms ago, he kept talking about measurements all the time. We got a strategic plan, but by God, we don't have any measurement. Now, I don't know who they used to say that all the time, but I remember him saying it all the time. And he would say, ah, dang, we don't have any. You know, he was correct. He said it about the county strategic plan, and it's true. You got to unleash these people and let them manage. And the only way you're going to let them manage is by putting those open-handed things, not detailed like this, open. But that's only my opinion.
Councilor Bunce.
Now I think we're getting there. Now we're starting to get to nitty-gritty. To your point, if we as a council say, let's encourage wellness in every one of our communities, and we go back to the staff and say, how can we do that? How can we encourage wellness? And maybe they come back with, well, the Y is going to partner with the service provider in Rock Bend, or the service provider in Grand Bend, or maybe we start a service in Port Franks. Then we get involved and say, can we afford it? Can we not afford it? Do we buy? But until we give them their head and say, here's what we value in our communities, here's the lifestyle we would like our people to lead. We don't need rhetoric. We need their creativity and their brains to say, here's a suggestion, what do you think?
Perfect example of that was an excellent report we got. Lots of council meetings. I just can't remember. I'm not good at time, as you well know. The one that talked about how we apply funding to our community groups, how we subsidize, and that was one of the most well-rounded reports that we've had, because it approached philosophical. Councillor Illman, so successfully for so many years, wellness. How much work she put into the center up there, and of course the new, but it all came back to it. She continually came back to that point, wellness, and I think that makes a good point. But it's based on something, and I think with the philosophy that was in that report from Recreation, I think it was Ashley who wrote it.
Yeah, it was last council meeting.
Was the last council meeting? It was a philosophical type of discussion, and we, in a practical way, said, you know, maybe we're not ready for that full philosophical, but we're already approaching it. She even showed it in the report. But it's something that is encouragement to the next level. How many times do we get reports that take us to that philosophical level? We asked her to consider that because of the community grant application thing last year. She took it and she blew that into the area that it should be. By us giving her the opportunity to give her wings, she flew away and she delivered this wonderful philosophical. So what did we do? We constrained ourselves and we said we don't have a lot of money for recreation right now, and our funding formula is cool. But we did all agree that it was an excellent report, and the philosophy is something that we may have to in the future approach. But that would be based on two things, right? Resources, and an agreement that it's very important that people are well in this community. And how do they get there? It's because we incentivize. We make it better. What are the tools going to be? But until we allow all the staff, each of those business units, that they can look at a private-public partnership, or they can use the Ottawa. I love the Ottawa thing. expect that at any given time,
Right.
in July, somebody could come along and say to John, la, 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 la. And John goes, wow, never considered that. Contracting with council.
I thought we did. Are we on a 4-year contract?
We are already.
Yeah, we are already. But inviting them into the tent is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Deputy Mayor has one more comment, and Donna will have to
Yes.
try to wrap this up by 3, so we can get on to the one other report that we have, if we can. We might not get,
We're
so
ready
we have a
to
good
start.
discussion.
Yeah, we're
And
ready.
we need to kind of, okay, we're giving staff carte blanche to come back with a methodology that's gonna make things better.
For what we identify as a need or a want in this municipality.
Deputy Mayor Dick.
Yes, well, I don't know if the illustration of wellness is exactly what you wanted to say, because, I mean, we've identified through our strategic planning that there are 3 things that are important to this council, as economic development, the environment, and community spirit. So those are the 3 things we want to focus on. And that doesn't help, I don't believe, help staff define private-public partnerships, which is a completely different issue, right? I don't think we've given them any other handles to hang on to, quite honestly, as far as criteria, clearly. I mean, we're saying things like we want a balance of social and economic capital, which sounds good, or we want the openness to the public bringing forward partnerships through their own initiative, and that's great, or efficiency through consolidation and things like that. Those are good, but those are very general, and I don't know if it would provide staff that much narrowing of the issues to make a unique decision about private-public partnership. If they feel they have enough to come back with something that is sufficiently narrowed to define private-public partnership, that would be wonderful. I can't really see that from our discussion today that we've narrowed it much, but it's just these are all nice things generally, but we have to give specific criteria. Yes, we do need criteria if they're going to do it, but we don't have it defined yet.
John, you have enough?
I agree completely with what Deputy Mayor's talking about, because I think the tendency that the trap we got into is, we get something referred to us, and we'll group up as a management team, put our heads around, and think, do you think that's what they're looking for? Do you think this sits up? And then we float it out to either find it blows up in our faces, or and I think it has to be, let me clarify, we know what our role is, and we know what council's role is, but I think it needs a collaborative effort to develop these things. I think we need to, is this the direction you wanted? And then you give feedback, and we adjust to those nuances or those things that you feel are missing. Come back, reshape it, come back again, continually refining it, because I don't think it's a one-of type of thing where we go away and I think that's the problem we've had, as good as we are. The problem is that we do our best to guess, to read all 9 minds, and see, have we hit the button? And I think it would be healthier to have more of a collaborative thing where we have discussions like this, we shape something for you in a draft form to say, is this the direction, and not feel like you're gonna throw it back in our faces, but you're on the right track here, but we're looking for more here. I think that's a healthier process, but I agree with you. I don't think, the same challenge I had with preparing this report was, what are they looking at? The history, a policy, and so without a dialogue, I think it's very difficult to hit the mark that council wants.
Yeah, you said it, you've been reactive, because you're probably closer to the ground than we are in terms of needs out there in the community, because you're operational guy. You have been reactive. All I'm suggesting is, as a council, as a board of directors to direct, we need to be more proactive, to say to staff, here's what we'd like to see, get out there and tell us where you think that need is, or where we can match it, and then if we can do it better through a public-private partnership, let's do it. Let's look at it. But I agree 100% with Councillor Russell. We've got to unleash these guys.
Councillor Russell.
Yeah, I just didn't off the top of my head that I have enough specific criteria. I know